Hey there, Alan Matthews here from Classical Guitar Shed, and what we have here is a guitar. And what is particular about this guitar is that it needs new strings, and we are just the ones to do it. So in this video, we are going to be restringing this guitar. Well, before we get started, we need to get our gear in order. So what do we have? We have a guitar. Yes, we do. We have some strings. I'm using the Pro Arts. I'm using hard tension. Normal tension is what I normally use. These are because they're cheap and they're easily found everywhere, but the kind of string you play doesn't actually make any difference so long as it's appropriate for the instrument you're playing. So a classical guitar needs classical guitar strings, steel string guitar needs steel strings. So make sure that you got the right type of strings, and beyond that, it doesn't matter all that much. Also got a string winder. This makes it a whole lot easier. If you do this by hand, it gets really tedious on your hands. Get the grip. I've got a pair of nail clippers here, also any kind of wire cutters, anything like that, or just be to trim it up and make it pretty at the very end. I've got a tuning fork. You don't really need to have a tuner or a tuning fork with you because you can go according to the existing strings if you're already in tune, but we have it there anyway just in case. And that's it. That's all we need. That and a little bit of patience. Okay, so with that, let's get started. So to change these strings, we're going to need to tie a knot down at the base, at the bridge of the guitar, and then also one up at the top. So if you'll notice, looking right here, then there are two different types of knots involved with, and there's actually three in the way that I do it. Subtly different. So there's one, and then there's increasing wraps around the strings right here. So we'll talk about both of those. But to start off with, what we're going to do is we're going to take that low E string, and you could start actually anywhere, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to start with the low E, and we're just going to take that off. We can take the string winder, and we can just loosen it. You can listen to the pitch going down, and make sure that you're turning it the right way. And so then we're just going to take off this string. All right, so we've taken off that sixth string, and now we've got our new sixth string, low E. I'm probably going to say E or sixth. We can take that tag off of there. Now there's a really important thing to note here, and that is if there is a tail, so one side of the string is really rough and is a different texture. And this one, it's this way. It loosens the wrap. We don't use that part at all. So use the other side that is absolutely the same all the way through to the end. That will be the side we put down at the bridge of the guitar. So then to start with, we take the string and we put it through the hole like this until it comes out a bit. Okay? Now what we're going to do is, and we'll see if I can actually do this without covering it up, but we're going to take it around this way, so bring it towards the bottom of the guitar, meaning that this bottom of the guitar, wrap it around, and then it is going to come back through. Now, what I do is take it and I put a little crimp in it, like this, so that I know that that's where that's going to be. So now there's a little crimp in it. And it can come around and then tuck under, like this. Now, if you just do that and you put it, then what's going to happen is that it's going to go through there. It needs to go over the lip right here. It needs to go over this lip. So what we do then is we pull it out, and we can use a fingernail or something, and then we pull it, and then we just smush it around like this with the finger, back and forth, so that where it crosses under the other side is over the lip. If it's not, then it can get loose or something. And so for these low ones, the lowest two strings, the E and the A, this is as far as we go. For the other ones, we'll do another loop around and then do this. But here's that. I said to go towards the bottom of the guitar and come around this way. That's because I like, if you'll notice, I like for all of the tails of the strings to go the same way and to make it really nice. And it's just it's an aesthetic thing. You can do it either way and it'll still work. This way, we'll put the tail going down in space. So that's why I did it that way. So then, from this point, we can come up and string the top. So now we need to get this thing wound around the tuning key. So when we do this, we're going to just go over here, put it through the hole, and then bring it back up and around. And so now we have it. But the question is, how much slack do we need? Do we need all of it? Do we need not very much? how much do we need. And this is a way that you can gauge this. On the 12th fret of your guitar, right here, you can put your middle finger, your long finger, and then use your thumb to pull up the string and then tighten it up. And then that will give you that much slack. And so that's a general rule of thumb, rule of finger, to give you some slack for your guitar. A little more, a little less, it doesn't really matter. So then what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this under we're going to take the slack, which has our rough bits on it, and we're going to wrap that under the existing string. Now, I like to bring everything towards the middle up here, and so we're going to do that, and then we'll do it again. Wrap it back around again. So now we have it wrapped around twice. You can wrap it around just once, but I just do it twice just because why not? Then you can just grab that tail, and then you can take your string winder, and making sure that your knot down here is still looking good, you can take that string winder and just start tightening it up. Now once you get to a particular point, it's going to cross over the wrapped string. Let it move towards the inside of the guitar. Instead of coming out towards the edge, move it towards the inside. So have it wrapped that way. That way, if you had a whole ton, then it would eventually be going towards the middle instead of going towards the edge. And get it seated in there really nicely. And as it comes around, you might have to nudge it a little bit or something. It's perfectly fine. And just keep going there. So then, how do we know how much to tighten it? Well, because we know that our A string is still in tune, then we can go to the 5th fret of the 6th string and then match those strings. And so then we can tune from that way. There, closer, a little high is perfect. And so that is the 6th string all strung up. So make sure that your knot down here is nice and seated, and then that's all good. You can just leave that tail for now and wash, rinse, repeat for the 5th string, and then there's a slightly different knot down here for the other strings, and we'll get to that in 2 shakes, but just go ahead and then change the 5th string. So when we get to the 4th string, to tie this knot, we're going to do the exact same thing. We put it through. If there's any sort of tail, then make sure that it's down there, not here. So we're going to bring it up, bring it down and around, make a little notch there so that we have a crimp in the string so that we know where we're going, like that. And now is where the slight difference comes in. So before we took it, we went through just like that, right? Well, now we're going to do it again. We'll pick it up and bring it around and take it through a second time, like that. So now it's got 2 wraps in it, and we still need the tail to be over the lip. So we can tighten that up, wiggle it around a little bit, and make sure that the final lip is over, or the final tail is over the lip down here. So if it wasn't, it would look like this. It would look like this, so that the tail is coming off on the top. And so that's not what we want. We want it to come over the lip, like that. So now it's over the lip, and we're good to go. We can just string it up just like the others, get our slack, do the exact same thing. And that's going to be the exact same way we'll do for the 2nd and the 3rd strings as well. So for the 4th, the 3rd, and the 2nd, that's the way to do it. And then there's a slight variation that I like to do for the high E string, and I'll show you that next. So now that we get to the high E string, we're going to do this exactly the same except for one small little difference. Now, if you'll notice, in a lot of people's guitars, there's this chunk taken out right here because the string unwound and slapped. It slapped the body of the guitar and made a big old chunk. So to safeguard against that, I like to double wrap the high E string. So you put it through you bring it around, but instead of going around and doing the twist like we normally do, we're going to bring it around and we're going to put it through the hole again. So now we have a loop like that. Can you even see that? And then we'll pull that around, and then from there, we'll do our regular knot. So then we'll wrap it around, and then we can come under both things when we come through, double wrap it, so then come around again under there, if I can get it. And then make sure that it's over the lip. Pull everything tight. Wiggle it around with your finger a little bit like that. Make sure that the tail is over the edge. And then that thing is not going anywhere. It certainly will not bang up the top of your beautiful guitar. String it up at the top, just like everyone else. Put the tail towards the inside like we do. And then we'll talk about trimming it up and stretching them out. Well, before we trim everything up, give it the haircut, we're going to stretch these out a little bit. And this is optional, but it does speed up the settling in period because these things are going to stretch. They're going to be out of tune horribly for a little while. We can speed that period up, shorten that period by stretching a little bit. And the way to do this, where we could just grab a string and start pulling on it like this, and that's perfectly valid as well. At very worst, if you overstretch, you'll break a string and then you'll have to put another one on. But it's not going to damage the guitar in any way, unless your guitar is really in bad shape, which it probably isn't. So the other way to do this is to grab it with your, grab a string with your pinky ring and middle finger, and then use your index finger and press on it. So now we get this torque thing happening, and then you can just go up and down like this. So you're pulling up with your fingers while pushing down with your index finger. And so that way you're stretching the individual parts, and you can just go up and down each string and do this. And if you'll notice, you can tune it, and then you can do this, and it'll be much lower. And that's because it's stretching it out. The other way to do it is to grab it with all your fingers, use your thumb, and press against it like this. So lift it up a little bit and do it this way. And depending on your hands and everything, one might be easier or more comfortable than the other. And so whatever works for you. So you can just give each a preliminary stretch. You can also just do this as you tune or a little bit each day. But it will speed up. It's squeaky once you do it on these strings. It'll speed up the settling in process. So the reason that we stretch these before we give it the haircut is just in case anything is a little bit not quite in there and it pops out or anything like that, we still have enough excess left on the strings to perhaps fix it. So if anything breaks or anything slips around, we haven't shortened the string so that if we need to fix something, we can. But now that we've stretched them out a little bit, we know that they're all seated in there nicely, we can trim it up. Now for these tails down here, then one of the things that you can do is to, well, first pull them up. And I didn't mention this, but if you're worried about the finish of your guitar, you can put a card or a piece of paper right here down underneath the strings, and that will keep you from getting this part of your guitar nicked up in any way. So I don't really do that, but a lot of people do. Professional luthiers and string changers will put a piece of paper here or a card or something, a 3x5 card, put it there. So then to get this, to keep them even, you can look at the distance of the tail to the next string. So you can trim it at the distance to the next string. So that way, it's that much. And then they'll all be exactly even. Now some people like to turn the, you can play with the tail direction and everything. I just point all of mine down in space. But you could also point 3 in, 3 out. You could do anything you wanted to with it to get into the, just to bling it out and have fun with it if you'd like to. But that's the trimming of this side. So now let's trim up these top ones, now that we know that they're in there. Here you can think about the same amount of tail as you had up here. You don't want too much because it'll get in the way or hook on your clothes or something, but just give it a little bit. Don't cut it too close, but just give it just a smidge, and just go through and do that. And this is I'm doing this on a table. You'll probably be holding it in your hand, and that way you can reach around and find just the perfect spot to just to trim it in just the right spot. And then just do that with all 6. All right, we did it. We changed the strings. They're all polished up. They're all bright, sounding beautiful. So now what? Stretch them out for a couple of days. Be patient with them. It'll take a little bit of time. Expect to tune it every single time you play for the next little while, and in general, and even more, sometimes even in the middle of a practice or something. But just keep stretching on it. Keep with it. You know, and to prolong these strings, you can wash your hands, that kind of thing before, you know, don't be eating, you know, brie with your fingers and then come and play, things like that. But you can prolong the life of them in that way just by keeping them clean. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this string changing adventure. Go forth, change your own strings, have fun, know that you can really do no wrong. Just get right in there. And please subscribe to this channel if you haven't, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Good luck. Bye.